want to begin by thanking President Zelensky for his passionate message this morning. I listened to it in the private residence, and he was convincing and significant speech. He speaks for a people who have shown remarkable courage and strength in the face of brutal aggression. Courage and strength that's inspired not only the Ukrainians, but the entire world.
Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Wednesday, March 16th, 2022. Welcome to day 421. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky invoked Pearl Harbor and the 9/11 terrorism attacks as he pleaded with U.S. Congress members for more help, telling lawmakers, quote, "We need you right now, call on you to do more," end quote. The Ukrainian leader urged the U.S. to establish a no-fly zone over his country, a proposal that the Biden administration and NATO allies have rejected. Zelensky also asked for the delivery of advanced anti-missile defense systems, saying, quote, "This is a terror that Europe has not seen for 80 years, and we are asking for a reply, for an answer to this terror from the whole world," end quote. At the conclusion of his remarks, Zelensky urged Joe Biden to do more, saying, quote, "You are the leader of your great nation. I wish you to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace," end quote. Following Zelensky's remarks to Congress, Putin accused the West of trying to, quote, "cancel Russia," end quote. In response, Biden called Putin a war criminal and said that he will commit an additional $800 million in military aid to Ukraine. The new funding comes from the $13.6 billion aid package Biden signed into law on Tuesday, bringing the total amount of funding allocated this week to Ukraine to more than $1 billion. The new aid package includes 800 anti-aircraft missiles, 9,000 anti-armor systems, 7,000 small arms such as machine guns, shotguns, and grenade launchers, 20 million rounds of ammunition, body armor, and drones. Quote, "This could be a long and difficult battle, but the American people will be steadfast in our support of the people of Ukraine in the face of Putin's immoral, unethical attacks on civilian populations," Biden said. "We are united in our abhorrence of Putin's depraved onslaught, and we're going to continue to have their backs as they fight for their freedom, their democracy, their very survival," end quote. The Kremlin called Biden's rhetoric unacceptable and unforgivable. Meanwhile, the International Court of Justice ordered Russia to immediately suspend its military operations in Ukraine, saying the Kremlin justified its invasion on a false pretext that Ukraine was committing genocide against Russian speakers in the east part of the country. The ruling is largely symbolic, despite being legally binding, because Moscow is not expected to comply with it. Countries who refuse to abide by the court's orders can be referred to the UN Security Council, but Russia holds veto power there. The vote was 13-2, with judges from Russia and China dissenting. Officials from Ukraine and Russia, meanwhile, say they have made progress on a tentative 15-point peace plan. The proposed deal includes a ceasefire and a Russian withdrawal if Ukraine declares neutrality and agrees not to join NATO. Back home, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 0.25 percentage point, the first increase since December 2018. The Fed also signaled 6 additional similarly sized rate hikes for later this year to rein in what they see as the highest inflation in 40 years. Policymakers say they expect inflation to remain elevated, ending 2022 at around 4.3%, well above the Fed's 2% goal, before eventually coming down to 2.3% in 2024. Based on the Fed's median projections, rates are expected to rise to about 2.8% by the end of 2023. In D.C., the Republican National Committee sued its own email vendor in an attempt to stop it from complying with a subpoena from the January 6th committee, looking for data on RNC and Trump campaign fundraising practices. Last week, the RNC sued the House committee, complaining about the Salesforce subpoena's breadth. The subpoena calls for Salesforce to produce, quote, "all performance metrics and analytics related to email campaigns by or on behalf of Donald Trump for President Incorporated, the Republican National Committee, or the Trump Make America Great Again Committee for the period between November 3rd, 2020 and January 6, 2021, end quote. Salesforce said it will begin producing documents to the committee imminently unless a court intervenes. Separately, the committee says it does not plan to subpoena members of Congress who allegedly have information regarding the events leading up to and surrounding the attack on the Capitol. Moving on, the Senate confirmed Shalonda Young as the director of the White House Office of Management and Budget, making her the first black woman to hold the cabinet-level position. Young was confirmed in a bipartisan vote of 61 to 36 after serving as acting director for the past year. And finally, the Senate approved legislation that would make daylight saving time permanent starting next year. If passed in the House and signed by Biden, Americans would never again have to change their clocks twice a year. At least 18 states have already passed laws to permanently switch to daylight saving time, though federal law must first change in order to allow it. And in the polls, Monmouth University says 69% of Americans favor sending U.S. troops to support European allies as a deterrent to keep Russia from invading those countries. 69% of Americans are also concerned that the conflict will lead to the use of nuclear weapons, while 30% are not worried about that. And Pew Research Center says 35% of Americans approve of the United States, quote, taking military action even if it risks a nuclear conflict with Russia, end quote, while 62% say they are opposed to military action in that scenario. Overall, 47% of Americans say they approve of Biden's handling of the Russian invasion, while 39% disapprove and 13% say they're not sure. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditas.